The following is a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
Welcome back to the Mission Minded. He is Michael Coleman. I'm Tony Curry. As you can see, we are dressed for the part today. It is Monday, Memorial Day. We're recording the show, and yes, we do work on holidays. I know you came into the office just to do your Mission Minded today, and I greatly appreciate that. No, your crew's off today. What do you do at the office? You seem to be one of those guys that will probably go into the office on holidays, right? Probably because it's kind of quiet. You probably get some work done. What are you doing there today? What's a typical holiday for Michael Coleman, the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank? What's your day like today?
Well, but I do this because Saturday we went and kind of celebrated some family time and did all that. So today I've got a couple of projects around the house, but I've got a key staff member that I've hired that's starting tomorrow, and she'll be coming in early. And so I just wanted to come in, organize my thoughts, and get some stuff down and really think through kind of what I want to communicate to her, how to get her going, because she's at a director level, very critical position. And it allows me just to clean up some stuff on my desk and do some things. And you're right, without the constant interruptions, because when I'm here, it's seemingly I can't go more than 10 or 15 minutes. Somebody's knocking on my door.
Yeah.
They need something signed or something's happening. They need decisions, those kind of things. So I love coming in when nobody else is here because I can be really productive.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And we're glad to have you in today, and I'm glad we got to do this show. Of course, we have another show called Bite by Bite, which we'll be doing right after this show. You can hear it on the TKR, a host of networks, and of course, also wherever you get your favorite podcast. It's available everywhere and right here on our YouTube channel on Tony Curry Radio. I didn't discuss with you where I wanted to go today, and it just kind of hit me coming in because I'm hearing these things. We're in an election year, right? And so all I'm hearing about is what's important to our voters. And obviously there are a ton of things out there that are important to everybody right now. Everything from the economy to abortion, you name it, it's out there. Something keeps coming up though that I think is really, really interesting. And that is I keep hearing these polls. It's been going on now for about, 3-4 years. You may want to say 400 years. It doesn't matter. But it seems like everybody that's taking these polls believes that we're in some serious economic trouble in this country. It's what's most important to you, and it's always the economy. It's always the economy. And there was something that just came out, I think, from the University of Michigan. What was the thing that came out last week about checking the temperature of the consumer CPA or whatever in the United States? Yeah. They check it every couple of years.
Consumer confidence level.
Yes, consumer confidence. Yeah, and everyone's freaking out because of the economy. They're freaking out because of the economy. They think the economy's, we need to worry about this and inflation and depression and blah, 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 blah. And just as an average Joe, I'm not an economic expert. I know you're not either, but you're a businessman. I don't see it. I don't see it. Maybe it's the group of people I hang out with. I see more people traveling on Memorial Day than ever in the history of the world. I don't know who has one day off and decides to run down to the beach for a couple of days. I don't have the money to do it. Maybe I'm the guy that should be taking this poll, right? I'm on a budget. I got 3 kids. I don't see it, but yet I see the stores full. I see people traveling at the highest rate they've ever traveled. I see things super expensive. It doesn't change. Gasoline's $4 again. It doesn't seem to matter to anybody. They're going to go do what they want to do. It's all come out since COVID. It's like everyone just can't get their yayas out. They just can't stop. And I'm sitting there going, where are these people that say that we're in trouble, that the economy is in a world of hurt? And then I see the stock market just set a record again this past week. I mean, are we living off borrowed time? What's going on? What am I missing here? Am I crazy? I mean, it sounds like this is the best country in the world right now to live in. It seems like we got to carry the world. We're spending money like it's left and right. I mean, am I missing something here?
Well, it's like you said, I'm certainly not an economic expert. but just the average Joe type stuff, like you and me, we're looking at stuff, and you're right, a lot of that doesn't make sense. And as I've listened to other experts and so-called experts to try to decipher what's going on, it all depends on a lot of different things. The stock market is always is not always a great indicator of the health of the economy, because it can be affected by different things, to include real and non-real. You know, we talked about that one time about how does somebody lose billions of dollars and still continue to be, and you know, the stock goes up and down on everything from consumer confidence to projections to rumors and everything else that floats up and down. It's very, when I look at it from a nonprofit perspective, and this is kind of where it begins to hit real with me, is when you're out there and you're trying to get people to donate. Now, there's people and a good, large sum of people who have a certain amount of assets in this world, and no matter how the economy goes up and down, they're always going to have money, because they have wealth. It may be family wealth, it may be they've built a company from scratch. There's all sorts of different ways they came into that. Maybe they've just been great managers of their money. But you get to a certain level to where, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're paying $3.20 for gas or $2.20 for gas. You know, it's not going to affect you. That's not the majority of Americans. And so what we see is, you're right, people head to the beach, and the interstates down here in Alabama will be jam-packed bumper to bumper, because it'll be nonstop traffic going to the beach, coming and going. And then I think about what's really remarkable is you get into SEC football time.
Oh,
Here's a stadium that's in Alabama.
hey, listen, and listen,
101,000 people.
Listen, real quick. I was at the SEC baseball tournament this past week. Now it was $36, but we got 4 tickets. It was cheap. I mean, I got to see 2 games for $36, and didn't mean to interrupt, but I mean,
that's all right.
You talk about, when you talk about football, you talk about $1,000. That was one of those things with the SEC baseball tournament, something I could afford. And of course they set a record there too. They had 18,000 people show up, but go ahead, continue though.
I was just saying, so when you look at that, you're like, here's Alabama. It's not considered to be a wealthy state. And every Saturday, you're going to have 101,000 people in this stadium that have to pay a lot of money for parking,
PSLs,
tickets, food, everything else. And so part of it is, you're like, well, people just put their money where their priorities are, you know? But in the nonprofit space, when I'm trying to fundraise across the fundraising, across the nonprofit spectrum, donations have been down.
They have been.
Yeah, they have been down.
Okay.
And so it's not just a food banking problem, it's across all charities. Now, there's anomalies. You can pull some out that say, oh yeah, well, I raised a lot more.
And typically what does that mean, Michael, when things are
Well, that's
down?
what I'm saying. Then you have people that try to sit back and try to figure out, why is that? Because as an individual nonprofit, I'm trying to say, is this something, are we not as effective individually as we could be? Or is this a trend that no matter how effective we are, it's going to be something we continue to battle? And the overall state of the economy is certainly part of that. I will tell you right now, the biggest challenge we have is there are lots of people, and some of the most generous people are those who don't have a lot to give, but they give more sacrificially because they don't have a lot of excess. Mm-hmm. So it will be our $20 a month donors, our $25 a month donors. A lot of those have gone away. And it's because to them, they're able to make ends meet, or in the past have been able to make ends meet. Now gas in Alabama is up to $3.20. Around the nation, it's much higher. It's $3.20, $3.30 a gallon. You've got food costs that continue to climb and continue to be a problem. And so you have, and then life things happen. And so what happens is, in the past, they've been able to make ends meet, and now they can't. So I don't have the extra $20 or $25 a month to donate. So you see it really affecting that population. The population, I would say lower middle class to poverty class really are just, it's hurting them dramatically. And that's what inflation does. It really affects people who can't absorb the cost from it. When you get up into the middle class, and I'm not talking upper middle class, I'm talking middle class, it all depends on them. They have to make some decisions about, yes, it affects them, but not enough to shut down, but they may make small kind of micro budgetary decisions.
Mhm.
Okay, look, we've got to stop eating out 4 times a week. We've got to cut it back to twice. Little things like that. But they don't make major decisions like typically that we're going to have to take you out of this private school because that's
Sure.
their priority. And things like that we see out there, we see what looks like me and you. It's like there's people spending money left and right. What are they talking about? When you look at what's in front of you versus at a macro level, it can paint a completely different picture. And I will say this about a consumer confidence. That is so fickle, because they called me one time and got me, and it was something that I committed to for 3, because what they do is they don't just call random people each month. They call you, and then 6 months later, they call you back. So I did it 3 times, and it's like 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, 6 months ago, you said this. Do you feel the same, or you feel worse? And it's really what I recognized wasn't, and I'm sitting there and it's how I feel in the moment.
Yep.
And I could be on tight. My money could be tight this month. And then I go, well, I'm not as optimistic as I was. And it's what's happened to me right then. So consumer confidence is so subjective. It's just, how do I feel? But how I'm telling you I feel today may be totally different than I feel tomorrow. Because it's just based on a lot of temporary feelings. And you try to give answers beyond that. You try to say, well, I'm not feeling great today, but let me look at the overall over the horizon. How do I think things are going? I mean, it's just a very, when I say unscientific, it feels very unscientific that these are just people's opinions in the moment. And then people make more macro level decisions based on that, like companies, about consumer confidence and how it's going and how does that feed into what line of product I'm going to be putting forward based on. I mean, it's so complex, it's so big, it's so many factors that go into it. It just gets beyond simple guys like me and you.
Well, I just want, what do we get out of these polls? I mean, I think polls are fun, and again, polls have been wrong ever since we started polls, period. And I'm trying to think to myself, okay, what are we learning? And I don't know what this consumer thing tells us or what we're supposed to learn from this. But all I know is to me, anyone ask me from any government agency, and by the way, I've got a business card that was left in my door a couple of weeks ago from some consumer product, something or other. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about. And the fact that I rent this home, I was like, I'm not the owner. So, but she doesn't seem to care. She just wants to talk, and she's from Atlanta. Anyway, you reminded me I need to contact her back. But the idea that when we're asked by any government agency or by any poll, it would seem to be easy to always bitch and complain about the economy. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, it's standard. I mean, the economy's never as good as we want it to be.
Sure.
I don't know anyone's. I very rarely do you meet someone going, "Dude, I'm fantastic." I mean, I'm killing it right now. I mean, it's unbelievable. Even people that do really well for themselves,
Yeah.
don't talk like that. I think the economy's fantastic. My stores is blowing and going. You just don't hear that. It's almost like they're going to jinx themselves by sitting there talking about how wonderful their life is or how good the economy is right now. And to me, it's like, I mean, I see China right now getting killed. Russia obviously has got a world of issues on their own, which of course a lot was put on them by themselves. But I just see us the little engine that could over here, the United States of America, blowing and going. And I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, or I'm waiting for something to happen where all of a sudden the market drops 15,000 points. And I just don't see it. I just don't see it coming.
One of the things I've struggled with in this is is very much like yourself. You're looking at world events. And so you'll have an economic expert that comes in and he manages money and he may say, well, there's a lot of opportunities out there in the market. I don't think stocks are oversold. So I think there's still, and when they say that, what they mean is it's much more likely that the stock market's going to grow than deflate.
Mhm.
And so they start pointing to a lot of different factors and they make intelligent arguments. And they say, for instance, I think so-and-so is going to happen. And I think that's going to put oil prices are going to come down. And so as oil prices come down, that's more money in people's pockets, all those kind of things. Like I just saw today, just at a glimpse of the news, Iran's going to increase productivity on their oil to 4 million barrels a day.
Mhm.
Now, I could line up 5 economists and they could all disagree about what the effect is on that. Are they doing that because they're ramping up for something? So let's build some fear. And when there's instability, it leads to more of a bear market. So people who are not optimistic, who always think, like my dad, what goes up must come down. That was my dad's philosophy of the stock market. Just always the pessimist, always, not seeing challenges as opportunities, but seeing them as problems and instilling fear and all that. So you have a bunch of so-called experts and they're all looking at the same event, but they're pulling out the data that they want to. And I will tell you something about polls. I used to see it all the time when somebody would say, well, here's a poll that said, and the headline would be, our greatest challenge, people feel our greatest challenge is X, and they'll put it out there based on a poll.
Mhm.
As if and then people start worrying about that. Oh, look, I heard a guy one time say, if they came out and said the greatest problem America faces, they took a poll and the news started reporting the greatest problem we have is a loss of mustard. We don't have enough mustard in this world, and there would be mad panic to the stores, everybody buying up mustard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you saw it back in the
People were
pandemic.
buying freezers during COVID, for God's
Oh,
sakes,
yeah,
because
it's
we
just-
heard
I mean,
we weren't going to
yeah.
have any red meat. I'm like, are you serious?
But what I found interesting is the people who take time to dig into those polls, and lots of times, because some of those polls come out of 50 questions,
Mhm.
and they dig down into some of the data, and you can really get down and interpret what value there is in there. You can really mine, but it takes mining. You can't just take a headline. That's why it's going to tell me one day Trump's up 5 points in all these key states, and the next thing I know is Biden maintains. This poll shows Biden maintains
yeah.
his lead, and those polls can actually sway some voters because
I
if they
know it.
feel like, hey, Biden's leading, well, why do I vote? Biden's going to win anyway. And other people go, oh, why do I vote? Because Trump's going to win anyway. I mean, it's all over the place. And this is why people are so confused out there. People can't make decisions hardly on the news because they don't know who to trust.
Mhm.
And Fox News is, CNN, the news you can trust, and Fox News, fair and balanced. And everybody's trying to give you the perspective, but they all are coming at it from a little bit different lens that they're interpreting events through. And it is very hard today to understand, to ask what's actually true, because everybody you don't see the event. You see the event, and then they're telling you about it, almost leaning you to what to interpret by it. The same thing you're talking about, the polls and these experts on TV, and they're saying they're sitting in these ivory towers looking at this economic data coming across, and they're pronouncing these things. And here's me and you on the ground. They were like, hey, that's not always, what we're seeing. I will tell you something that was very interesting. I did remember this from many years ago. There was an economic person on there, and he was talking about stocks. And he said, don't listen for what on these shows, these business shows, for what's the latest hot stock or whatever. He said, go through your life and just look around and observe. For instance, are there a lot of people in Walmart every time you go there? Well, guess what? Walmart's probably a good stock to
Yeah.
to have in your portfolio. Maybe not everything in there. Is Amazon something that's familiar that everybody uses? And yeah. So you don't have to be an economic expert to go, is that something I want to be a part owner in? I couldn't help but notice too, in the last 3 or 4 years, there's Circle K's everywhere. They bought up a lot of the old grocery stores, remodeled them, and now they become Circle K's down here in Alabama. Maybe it's everywhere. But I thought to myself, that principle popped back in my head, which is you can't hardly get off at an exit that there's not a Circle K or a street that there's not a Circle K.
Yeah.
And so obviously behind the scenes, they are very intentional about going out and buying up gas stations, establishing a brand, all those kind of things. So please, I'm not advising anybody to go invest in Circle K. I'm just saying, you look around and go, wow, there's a lot of those, and they're always very busy and very active. Do I need to know everything that's going on about that, or is that kind of a safe bet because I just see everybody being a part of it? And
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty good advice.
No, I mean, as long as you're not a penny stock individual looking to, make a killing
Yeah.
overnight, and we know those exist, but we also know there's people that win the lottery too. It's funny. We used to do a stock picking thing on our old morning show on the opening drive. And it was always done at the beginning of the year. And I would remember we would always do it over Lent. For some reason, I think it's when the guys wanted to come in and do their investment thing. And so we were given $50,000 in make-believe money to go buy $50,000 worth of stock and see who could perform the best over a course of an 8-week period. And I would always invest in fisheries over Lent because I'm Catholic. And I
Yeah.
know that Catholics eat a lot of fish over, we're not allowed to, we don't eat a period. We fast on Fridays and we're not allowed to eat meat on Fridays. And so, and for some reason over the 4 or 5 years we did this every single month, January, February, March, fisheries go through the roof because everyone's selling fish sandwiches. You see McDonald's doing fish sandwiches on Fridays and fish fries and fish fries and stuff like that. And so fisheries. So I always buy $50,000 worth of fisheries and I'd win every single year. It's one of those things where it just, it touched me and thought,
That's right.
and so I do really well. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. I got a couple of email questions here. We got time to get to. And I'm going to paraphrase them because they're kind of long emails. And we love the emails, by the way. Keep the emails coming. They're fantastic. This is from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, from Troy. Wants to know, he wants to hire someone to work for his non-for-profit, but he wants to get paid. The guy wants to get paid, but the guy can bring in quite a bit of revenue into his non-for-profit. He wants to know, is there a formula on how much you should pay someone based on what they can bring into your business?
Boy, that's a question. That's a great question because it's a question that I've thought about many times. Because there's been times, just a little background, you're sitting there going, I know that there's some touch points out there in our community. I don't have time to do them all. I've got other CEO responsibilities, so I need to bring somebody in who can do that. And so then, but if I pay somebody a certain amount of money and he doesn't even bring in his own salary,
Yeah.
Then that's a real challenge. I've ended up hurting myself. So couple of things before I give you the best answer I can. I'm always be careful. It's just a word of warning. Always be careful if that person, and he didn't say that person was telling him how much he could bring in. I'm always a little leery when people tell me how much they can bring in, because there's really no way to prove that unless they can show me campaigns they've run in the past with other organizations, or, because even if you show me a big contact list, having a contact list and having influence over those people, two totally different things. So, when I made a decision sometimes, on that, I'm trying to take in, what do I think that person can bring versus what this hiring this person is going to cost me. One of the ways that you could do that is you could do it on commission.
Mm-hmm.
And then based on what they bring in, I mean, you could pay them a much lower salary, but then pay them a commission that actually pays them beyond what they otherwise would make with just a salary. And that way it
do you find,
incentivizes.
do you find, pardon me, do you find that commissions work? I guess some people get after it. I mean, I can go Mary Kay. We can do,
Yeah,
all kinds of different things where, I see essential oil people. For some reason, I think of
yeah,
essential
yeah,
oil. I had a friend of mine that's into essential oils, and she's like, so and so is making $350,000 doing that. And I said, yeah, well, and there are people making that kind of money, but she's working her ass off. She's standing outside Publix right now on a Saturday afternoon selling essential. I mean, so she's getting after it. But for these people that go out there and want to do these weekend hacks, that think they can make an extra $30,000 or $40,000 by
yeah,
selling, makeup. It's you're buying all the product and you're taking your classes, and next thing you know, I think a lot of people get into real estate for that. They think they can do real estate part time and
yeah,
make, all they got to do is sell one $450,000 house. It's worth it. Well, good luck doing that. But do
yeah.
you find that commissions work?
Well, there's like anything, it's pros and cons. You can have people who are commission driven in fundraising, and it doesn't work out well because they're so driven to get their commission, they end up harassing donors because
Yep.
sometimes it takes a long time to develop relationships with donors. You don't just come in and then send out an email and somebody, and you're going to get 20, 30, $40,000 in donations. It takes time to build relationships. And so that's what I'm saying. You would have to have some sort of base salary. But if somebody's asking for something that you feel like, hey, depending on what they bring in, I don't know that I could pay that. Then you can come up with some sort of, hey, here's enough salary, to keep you going. But, the first year, here's going to be your commission. And then the second year, you kind of transition because you got that first year to kind of build up your donor base and just the connections and the relationships. It's even more of a gamble if you're bringing in somebody who you think's good, but it's not bringing in, for lack of a better term, his own book of business.
Yeah.
Like this development director that I'm hiring, this I mentioned earlier, is coming in on Monday. She's well known in the Montgomery community. She was with a credit union. She's the community engagement person. She's the president of a Rotary. Everybody knows this. Well, seemingly everybody. She's a very public person. She doesn't raise money because she works for a private company, but she's a community engagement person. So she has lots of connections, but I don't think just because she comes here and starts working for us, that she's just going to send out an email and we're going to get inundated with checks and donations.
Sure.
But I do know that she has several relationships across the community, many of which I do not personally have, and the people we have here don't have, that she now has a voice into their life to share with them that could lead to those donor relationships. So if that person coming to you in response to the email, if the person's coming to you and is somebody in the community that you feel like can help raise money, I don't know of a specific formula, but I know of methods such as, splitting the salary. You could go full commission.
Yeah.
But that's very difficult to do because, again, when you're coming in, donors need time. I mean, donor relations people and fundraisers need time to build that relationship. If just think of this, the more straight commission you go, usually the higher level of commission you're going to have to provide. So you may say, all right, I'm going to give you a salary, and then I'm going to give you 20% of everything that you directly raise.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we just get in the mail because we know, but like based solely on you going and based on your relationship, being able to bring in dollars, I'll give you 20% of that. If you go straight commission, that might have to be bumped to 30%.
Yeah.
So that they have a chance to recoup that. Sadly, I don't know of a formula. I've been faced with this many times, and lots of times it's a roll of the dice that you're getting the right person who with the right ask. And then the last thing I'll tell you to think about is think about your own nonprofit and how much you're going to be equipping that person to be able to take a message out into the community. So let me explain that just a little bit. if I have a dynamic mission that pulls at the heartstrings and that I'm actually making an impact in the need in our community. So I'll say food banking, you know, everybody's got to eat. We have to show that we're dispensing a lot of food and we're impacting children and seniors and all that. Now I'm giving my development team a real mission to go out and do something about it. But let's say that I'm a nonprofit that maybe has an important mission, but maybe I'm not very effective at meeting that mission. Maybe I don't have a lot of stories to tell, maybe for whatever reason, or maybe, you know, there's just a lot of factors. You got to understand, even an effective person coming in, if they don't have a powerful message, an impactful message to take to the community, they're not going to be great fundraisers. But
there you go. Great stuff, my man. Mission in mind, keep in mind your mission in your mind. Heart of Alabama Food Bank is the CEO. Of course, he joins us every single week. We also do a show called Bite by Bite, which you're going to be doing next. You can listen to it right here on our network of radio stations and wherever you get your favorite podcast. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Enjoyed it, my brother.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.